Hello, Year 6. Welcome back to another chapter of Crater Lake. Settle in because this is a long one. We're on chapter 10 and it is called The Hacker. So here we go. We leave the gorgeous coolness of the fridge and run through the kitchen, grabbing supplies and bottles. I don't know why I'm giggling. Let me start again. We leave the gorgeous corners of the fridge and run through the kitchen, grabbing supplies and bottled water as we go. Oh gosh, not this again. We leave the gorgeous corners of the fridge and run through the kitchen, grabbing supplies and bottled water as we go. I listen at the door before inching it open and looking up and down the corridor. Back in the fridge, back in the fridge. I try to make my voice quiet, but commanding at the same time, which is actually quite hard. Bug eyes, I say, and that gets everyone moving. Shoving each other towards the fridge door, we bundle in, and I pull it so hard that I pull it so there's just open a crack. Hunters, whispers Mac, trying to see over my shoulder. No. From the way they're walking, I think they're just workers, but we can't afford to let them see us. Hopefully they're just passing through. But as I hold my breath and start to count a minute in my head, I see the handle of the kitchen door turn and two people enter the room. Guys, I say, I know what happened to Dale. Dale is still in his dirty, bloody clothes, but his wounds have been neatly bandaged and the bleeding has stopped. The dark, swollen rings around his eyes have gone. Ah, you look so much better, Katja says, while she crouches deep down, peeping at him from under my arm. Apart from the bug eyes, obviously. But how did he get here? Chet says. Digger obviously had him brought back here instead of calling an ambulance, Adrian says. And he was unconscious, remember? So he must have bugged out. Look, he's with Midge, Max says. Shouldn't they be working, though? At the dam site? What are they doing? They've disappeared over to a window, side of the kitchen, and out of view. So I edge out of the fridge and creep to the corner to look. We must hurry, says Midge in a calm voice. We must get back to work. These bodies need substance. The hive cannot work without proper nourishment, Dale replies. These bodies are weak, says Midge. And that is something Midge would never say, because she's a purple belt, white stripe in karate, and she bangs on about it all the time. They require so many things. They're all we have. They will suffice. Dale is putting a huge pot on the cooker. I'm satisfied that they don't know we're here, and that we just have to sit tight. So I return to the fridge, close the door, and signal the others to hide behind the shelves until they're gone. Well, what are they doing? Says Chet, returning to his baguette. Making food, I say. What are they having? I'll give you one guess. Tomato soup, they all whisper at the same time. Wrong. Chicken soup. As soon as Midge and Dale are gone, we race out of the kitchen. Time is running out. We don't come across any more bug eyes as we run through the empty corridors. I assume they're all tucking into the soup in the dining hall. I'm not sure what the worker bug eyes will do if they catch us. I know they're not human and that their focus is carrying out whatever tasks they've been set. But as they all report to Hawk, we can't risk being seen by them. The security room door has a no entry, staff only sign on it, which, luckily for us, somebody must have thought would be enough to stop a bunch of kids from running in and messing around with their stuff, because it's not locked. Inside the room, there are 3 screens that flick through images of the center. The security gate, the entrance to the building, the corridors, and some of the rooms. There are the others, Katja says, as the inside of the dining hall appears. It looks like they're arguing. Chet leans in to get a better view. Trent seems mad. That's not good. Maybe some of them want to leave, says Adrian. They've been locked in there with him for hours. They're probably desperate to get out. You really don't like him, do you? I say. What's the story? Why does there have to be a backstory? She snaps. You hate him too. But he spends his life trying to make ours miserable. He's nice to you. I never asked him to be nice, Adrian says as her face turns red. In fact, I wish he'd stop. Now can we change the subject? Guys, Max says, peering at one of the screens, check this out. On the screen, in the black and white, we can see Digger skulking around in a room we haven't seen yet. It looks like some kind of maintenance area, because there are hoovers and cleaning stuff, and what could be a boiler. As we watch, Digger lifts a heavy-looking lid from a giant container. What's in there? I ask. It looks like a water tank, Max says. Digger leans over the water tank, and something flies from his mouth into the water. Because the footage is black and white, and the room is dark, it's really hard to make it out. But, did he just spit? Catcher says. Ugh, man, that's gross, Chet says, making a face since he turns away. But the rest of us squeeze in even closer. Why would he spit in the water? I mean, I get that it could be some kind of revenge spit, but it seems strange of him to go through all that trouble when there are plenty of other things he could do to us. The image disappears and is replaced by a view of the admin office. Hock is in there, pacing around in her heels. Even though there's no sound from the monitors, I can almost hear the click-clack as she walks back and forth. As she gets to the window side of the office and turns back towards the camera, we see her face clearly. It looks like she's speaking. Is she talking to herself? I say. There must be somebody else in there with her, Catcher says. She always tells me that talking to myself is a sign of a disorganized mind. Well, we know it can't be Digger, Chet says, moving back towards the screen, because he's too busy contaminating the water supply. Do you think it's one of the bug eyes? I think there's a second camera in the office, I say. So when the footage cycles forward, we might be able to see some more. We wait in silence for a few seconds for the images to change, and when it does, we see there is someone else in the room. There's a figure sitting on a chair. Because of the angle of the camera, we can't see his face, but he looks kind of familiar. Who is that? Mac asks. I'm not sure, says Adrian, but he can't be a bug eye. Look, he's tied up. Adrian's right. The mystery man is tied to the chair. I wish we could hear what she's saying to him, I say. But even if it's possible to get some sound, we don't have time. Can you turn these off, Chets? Chet has been inspecting the system. Sure, I can turn them off, but what's stopping Hock from turning them back on again? You're right, I say. Can you disable the system somehow? I'm not talking major hack or implanting a virus, just something quick. Chet sits at the desk and starts clicking a mouse. It's password protected, but if I can crack it, and he starts tapping away at the keyboard. Where do we go next? Catcher says. It's nearly morning and Miss Hock is going to be looking for us. I look out of the window and see a haze of pale yellow easing up over the horizon. I think we'll be safer out of the building. We can find somewhere to hide in the woods while we work out what the heck we're going to do next. Cracked it, yells Chet. One by one, the images flicker and the screens go black. And I've changed the password to something they'll never guess, so they won't be able to log back in. Awesome. Well done, mate. I turn to the door, but on a second thought, I pick up a chair and smash it into the screens, totally destroying them. Just in case. We leave the room and make our way to the nearest exit. The sooner we're away from this building, the better. We trek through the trees as the sun rises, keeping to the steeper side opposite the dam. As the adrenaline buzz fades away, so does our energy. My backpack feels like it's full of rocks. My legs are starting to refuse to lift my feet. In my head, I offer them bribes. Just a bit further, and we can sit down. Just a bit further, and we'll take off our shoes. But at the same time, I'm worried about stopping, because I feel like I won't be able to start again. None of us are chatting now. Our heads are down as we concentrate on each forward step. This is a good place, Max says, stopping to look around. There's a hollow inside the bushes. See? And if we keep a lookout at the top of the tree over there, we'll be able to spot the bug eyes coming from a long way off. We'll be able to evacuate before they reach us. He says it like he knows exactly what he's doing, so I nod and point to a small gap in the bushes. Okay, let's do it. There's enough room in there for everyone, but we'll take it in turns to be lookout. I think we should have 2 people on duty at all times. I don't want anybody to be alone. Should we have a meeting first? Adrian says. I think we need to discuss our options. Ugh, everyone groans. Age is right though, I say. We can't just hang around in the bush and hope for the best. Let's eat and talk. We sit at the bottom of the lookout tree, except Katja, who climbs up it far enough to give her a good view of the crater. Can you still hear us, Katja? I call as quietly as possible, I call as quietly as possible to someone who's halfway up a really tall tree. Loud and clear. Her voice floats through the leaves. Now that we've sat down, the muscles in my legs start to throb, and I have an overwhelming urge to lie back and close my eyes. Looking around at the others, I can see the tiredness is hitting them too. We've been awake for 24 hours, an entire day, which is probably a record for most of us. I've had a lot of sleepless nights though, so it's nothing new for me. But even I'm feeling tired. They must be ready to drop. What are we going to do, Lance? Chet leans back against the tree and rubs his eyes. We've got to get through the night, I say, and that's something to be proud of. Does anyone know when the coach is coming back for us? Tomorrow morning, says Adrian. So we have to get through one day and one night. That's not so bad. Even as I'm saying it, I know nobody's buying it. We're basically done for, and we have 24 hours left before we can get out of here. Even if we can avoid being captured by the hunters, there's no possible way we're going to be able to stay awake for that long. We need to understand how the spores infect people and why it only happens when they're asleep. Maybe we can find some way around the not sleeping thing. Or we need to find a genius way of staying awake, says Chets. When my baby sister is crying all night, my mum used to take caffeine pills to get her through the days. Adrian is putting a plaster on her blister. Only she would have a first aid kit in her backpack. Maybe we'll be able to find some of the pills in the centre. Okay, caffeine pills, I say. Don't sound like they'd be parentally approved, but we can give that a go if we can find some. What else? Coffee. My mum drinks lots of coffee to wake her up in the mornings, says Chets. Yes, coffee is definitely an option, even though it tastes like poo. Any other ideas? Everyone looks deflated. We just need to keep busy and help each other out, I say. Let's look at Dale's notes again, and see if we can learn anything useful. I get out the notes and put the pages in the middle, so everyone can see them. There's no wind in this stupidly hot crater, so they're not going to be blowing away. I pick up a scrap of paper with the title, Intracellular Parasites. It seems a good place to start as any. Guys, I say, without looking up from Dale's scribbles, I think I found something. There's a lot of really sciencey words that I don't completely understand, but I think what he's basically saying is that the spores are drawn to unconscious brains. If the mind is awake, the spores can't take hold. But how do the spores get into the hosts? Adrian asks. Did Digger pump them into the centre through the vents? If he did, then we might be safe out here. I read on a little further. You're not going to like this, guys. The spores are already in the air, too small for us to see. We have to assume that the crater is full of them. So they're flying around us right now, Catcher calls down from a tree. Yeah, I think so. Chet clamps his hands over his mouth and nose and tries not to breathe. You're awake, Chet. They're not going to get you if you're awake. Clamping your hands over your mouth and nose isn't going to make a difference. But that means none of us can go to sleep at all until we leave the crater, Mac says. Everybody visibly shrivels like deflating balloons. Even Katya, though I can't see her, makes the branches rustle in a way that suggests she's shriveling too. I try not to shrivel myself, because I feel like it's my job to keep the group's spirits up. But yeah, it's pretty much the worst news ever. Then I look at Chet's, who still has his hands over his face, like the world's worst gas mask, and I have an idea. I've thought of something that might help, I say, but I'm going to have to go back to the centre to get it. Shall we go? Adrian says, zipping up her bag. No, it'll be quicker and easier if I go on my own, I say. You said yourself that nobody should be alone, Katja calls down through the leaves from the tree. At least take one person with you. Seriously, I've got this. I don't need anyone to come with me. No way, says Mac. It's not happening. Deal with it. I'm annoyed because this is something I really want. I really don't want someone... I'm annoyed because this is something I really don't want anyone else to be involved in. But I can't argue with my own rules. Chet's is yawning his head off, and I feel like if I don't get him moving, he's just going to fall asleep. Besides, out of everyone, he's the person I trust the most. Bear with. Come on, Chet, we're going, I say. What? Chet jumps. We're going on a mission, back to the centre. But we've only just got here. I know, mate, but this is important. I mean, it might mean that we can finally get some sleep. And anyway, you're my best friend, and I really need you with me on this one. Just let me have a drink of water, he says. I knew he wouldn't be able to argue with his best friend with the best friend card. In 2 minutes, we're walking back down the hill, leaving the other three to keep watch and examine Dale's life-saving notes. My legs are screaming at me to stop, but I chew on some gum and do my best to ignore them. Chet and Lance on an epic adventure, I say, to cheer Chet up. The tiredness is bringing out everyone's grumpy sides. We'll have loads of adventure together at Bing, Chet says. I don't know what to say. I know I'm never going to Bing. My grades are average at best. I have a bad attendance record, and I have trouble concentrating. Not to mention that Hock had a black mark against my name long before the whole trapping Trent in the toilet incident. Chet has his blind faith in me because I saved him from a wasp and basically stopped him from getting picked on through the whole of school. He just doesn't want to see the truth. Let's get through this first, and then we'll talk about Bing, I say. Why? Do you think we're going to die or get turned into bug eyes? No, I'm not saying that. I just feel like we need to focus our efforts on the task ahead of us. That sounds convincing, right? What is it we're going back to the centre for anyway? It's a long story, I say. So you won't tell me? I can tell I've hurt his feelings. He thinks I tell him everything. Sometimes I get tired of being the responsible adult. He can be such a baby. Give me a break, will you? He sniffs, and I can just imagine the look on his chocolatey eyes, like a toddler who's had his cuddly bunny taken away. I can't deal with this now. We have to get into the centre, and we have to get this done. We walk in silence, and I'm pretty sure he's feeling as horrible as I am. It's only 8 a.m, and the sun is burning my skin. I think my freckles have doubled in numbers since we got here. Usually, when you're in the woods, the air is full of that damp, mouldy leaf smell, the smell of dark green. But the woods right now, they smell the same as everything else, dry, crumbly, and dead. We're getting close to the centre, and I can hear something that sounds totally out of place. What the heck is that? I say. Patchbell's cannon, says Chet. Say what now? It's a piece of music, like classical music. My mum loves it. She finds it very relaxing. Now, that makes sense, I say. Hock is trying to get them all to fall to sleep. She's probably made them some hot chocolate and is handing out fluffy slippers too. I want to go home, says Chet. He sounds so sad that I stop being annoyed with him and want to give him a hug. Tomorrow, Chet, we'll be going home tomorrow. I wonder how that feels, to be homesick. I miss home, but in a different way. I feel guilty that I'm not there, and guilty that I'm kind of happy to not be there, even with an alien invasion and everything. It only seems 5 minutes since we left base camp. We should call it base camp, right? But we're already at the tree line. We crouch behind some tall, ferny stuff. Right, I say. I'm thinking they're going to be concentrating on the others in the dining hall. They will have found them by now, and judging by the calming tunes, I'd say they're trying to get them to crack. That's bad. It is for them, but it's good for us. It means we have a better chance of getting in and out undetected. Then I have the sudden realization, like a kick in the boy bits. How are we going to get in? None of the doors are proper open, and the main entrance is locked. And then Chet does a little smile. It's the first smile I've seen from him since we got here. Why are you smiling, Chet? Well, when I access the security cameras, I set all of the doors to unlock, he says. We can get in any of them without any trouble. Chet, I punch him gently on the arm. You're a legend. We go for the door that's furthest away from the dining hall. The good thing about the music is that it covers any noise we make. The bad thing is that we won't be able to hear if someone is coming. So we go carefully, stopping to check ahead and behind whenever we reach a door or a junction. Now that we're in danger again, and the desperate need for sleep eases a little. Not completely though. I still feel it burning in my eye sockets and tugging at my arms and legs, always dragging me down. What's the plan if we run into someone? Chet whispers. Run, I say. Back into the woods if you can, and try to shake them off. If you can't lose them, then the fridge, I guess. You'll be stuck in a dead end, but you can block the door and buy yourself some time. I hope whatever we've come to get is worth the trouble, Chet says. Me too. Montmorency pupils. Hawk's voice oozes through the tannoy speakers like toxic slime. I hope you're finding the music soothing. I know you're tired. Instead of the shrill voice she usually uses for telling us off and shrieking out orders, she's speaking in a lower, gentler tone. It's almost like she's purring. You're so very tired, and staying awake is too hard. I know your eyelids are drooping. I know your bodies ache to lie down. You don't have to fight it. No harm will come to you if you give in and close your eyes. You'll feel better, stronger, more energized. You'll wake with a clear mind, knowing your place in the world and exactly what you should be doing. The confusion, the fear will all be gone. So sleep, my little lovelies. Just sleep. Chet puts his fingers in his ears. Do you think she can hypnotize us through our ears? And for those of you who choose to fight, she says, some of that familiar sharpness coming back into her voice. Know this. Your efforts will be futile. The hive is stronger than you. You will fail. We have other ways of making you sleep. The music comes back on, the same tune, over and over again. It's enough to make anyone slip into a coma. What are the ways, Lance? What's she talking about? I don't know, Chets, I say, but let's hurry, because I don't want to find out. We've reached the sleeping area. Chet keeps lookout at the top of the stairs, down to my room. At the top of the stairs, down to my room. While I go in and grab what I need from where it is, hidden under my bed, it's so heavy, so it will slow us down on the way back, but I think it's worth the risk. I put it into the empty backpack I brought with me and heave the straps over both shoulders. I can do this. Chet nods that all clear, so I jog up the stairs and we make our way back down the corridor. The music seems louder than before. It fills my head and hums through my body, and makes the journey towards the exit feel like a sinister dream sequence. I start to zone out, and for a moment I wonder if I actually have fallen asleep and that none of this is really happening. That is until we turn the corridor and I see Hawk standing at the other end. And that's the end of that chapter. What a horrible place to end, considering this is the last chapter I'm reading to you before half term. So you now have a week off before we can get back to chapter 11, which is called The Chase. I hope you're enjoying this book so far, and I will see you in a week. Have a lovely half term. Goodbye.